I am live. Fantastic. All right, YouTube. So, welcome to the stream. And for everyone watching the video in the archive and on the channel, how are you all doing today? So, I had to talk about this because I finished the series recently, and about what it was a month ago, I tried to do some live reactions to the part, and I'm going to get this off the bat. Not the biggest fan of this part. All right. I'm just going to get that out of the way. Now, if you want to stick around and hear why I have to say that, it might be a great time, a good discussion. But I know there are some people who absolutely love this part. And I think I know why. But on the other hand, I'm going to explain my perspective on why this is actually one of my least favorite parts in the whole series. And a couple of other things that I thought about when reviewing this series, it might be worth doing another read through, but unfortunately, I feel like the payoff in this part just wasn't at that same level, especially like when you compare it to part 7, where some of the themes and impact on the world that the story takes place in is huge. Hey, Hart, how you doing? I'm doing okay, thank you. I hope you're having a good day as well. It's actually 2:15 here. I'm on the East Coast. It's crazy, absolutely crazy. I thought the day just started, but here we are. And I saw your comment on a video, and I remember, it was a great comment. A lot to take in, but I haven't had a lot of time to just sit here and do YouTube for a couple days now. But this is worth creating an archive and just, discussing the series, right? What is the purpose of Jojolion? The purpose of Jojolion, in my opinion, is to take the themes of JoJo's and go back to a more slice of life, small town mystery story. That was kind of like part 4. And I think Araki set out to put a lot of focus on this part on Josuke, the main character. You're thrown into this mystery with the character. He's literally dug up from the ground at the walleyes. And you're told that these walleyes are a place of recent, mystery and catastrophe. They've completely shaped the land. And they're like literally a blemish on the landscape. And I got to just respond to something. Okay. I just got to put in a quick confirmation here. Okay, that's fine. So you're with this character, and I don't remember all of the character names. Like I would need to have a list of the characters out, and I don't really care enough to do that. I'm going to get to the meat and potatoes of what I like and don't like. Okay, this isn't like a summary of the whole series. It's my take on the. Well, Hart, you and I are in a similar boat. So one thing we can, defer here that we can see thematically is that part 4 and 8 are very similar. They intend to do similar things as a part. They kind of confine the story into a location that has its own set of problems, and there is a trend to make mystery the key theme of the part. Now, I like mystery stories. The problem is the characters have to be really good. in mystery stories because you're lacking the plot and background to immerse you in the world. So the characters really have to be what immerse you into the world. Now, Hart, of course, spoiler warning, if you do end up wanting to finish part 8, I'm going to talk about the whole thing. So if you do want to have that remain secret, you may want to check this out afterward, and you'll see where I'm going with this instead of watching it live. But let me just say this. I kind of see what Araki's trying to do with this part, but I also see that he seems to have juggled a lot of ideas and kind of lost the focus of the part, in my opinion. Okay. One thing I want to start with is that the mystery around Josuke's identity, there are some cool ideas with it. Okay. So by the way, Hart, here's what I don't know, I forget the part that you were at, but what we learn about Josuke is that at the Walleyes, he was fused by 2 people. Kira Yoshikage, and then the guy who's like an alternate version of Josuke or on Okuyasu. I think it's based on Okuyasu, but anyway, basically 2 beings died together at the Walleyes, and the Rorikaka fruit was there as well, and they fused into the Josuke of Part 8, who doesn't know who he is. What we know about the Walleyes is that they create basically a new result between 2 sources. They call it equivalent exchange, but basically it's like a fusion, basically. So think of the Dragon Ball fusion concept, but the characters here, their souls kind of become one. And the new being that's born from that event doesn't remember anything. But what we know is that Kira in this arc was a Navy doctor and had Killer Queen, which we only see used in one flashback. And it kind of like I wanted more from Kira's character. The fact of the matter is that Kira was a flashback plot device ultimately. And then Okuyasu, they named the other guy, it's some other name. It's not Joke, or it's something. See, I don't have notes in front of me. But this has really been on my mind. And, these 2 characters that were so pivotal to the identity of Josuke and Kira being one of them, your mind is racing. You're like, oh my God, this character, it's going to be so amazing. I loved Kira in part 4. And these characters are just maybe half as good in their appeal, in their complexity, and what you learn about them. And ultimately, what it ties to in the overall plot that Araki's building here, it's very insignificant. It could have been so much more. And I feel like Araki lost touch with the idea of how to make these characters really a part of the lore that we're seeing. Part 8 is about calamity. It's about the tsunamis that hit Japan in 2011. It's about the world fighting humanity back. The earth, Mother Nature, natural disaster manifesting itself. That's the idea of the plot. But unfortunately, in my opinion, Araki doesn't go far enough with some of the ideas in that. Like, why are the Walleyes not really more involved with the story? They're just the site where Josuke was fused into a new being. That's it. Like, why weren't the Walleyes where the rock humans come from? That would have made a lot more sense. A little bit better. He's an unimpressive villain. I don't really care. Fair enough. I do like his mental instabilities, and I also like the fact that he is such an asshole. I would argue he's the biggest asshole of the verse outside of Dio. Even Diavolo had a daughter, right? Like, Kira doesn't have family. He's that evil. That's the only thing he is an evil entity through and through. self-absorbed, and mentally unstable, as we can clearly see. But that adds to his villainy, in my opinion. But I can see why, yeah. And I will, yes, like his personality, it's very static. Like it doesn't really change all that much. He's just the guy with the hand fetish who wants to keep his identity a secret. Ooh, like I get that kind of getting stale, and perhaps Kira was on screen for too long, or he was shoved in your face a lot in the end. And then Bites the Dust was of crazy OP ability, but it's literally just Groundhog Day as a stand power. So I can get it. Like replaying the same plot could get tiring. So I do see the nitpicks there. I personally, I'm just going to spoil you right now, Hart. The villain of Part 8 sucks. Oh, yeah, Kira had his father. Yes, the photo guy, right. Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, they were hiding. But did he not? He knew he didn't have a daughter, or that his daughter was alive. And he wanted to get rid of her. That's right, guys. It's been like 2 years since I've been caught up with Part 5. But yeah, no, they're both assholes. They're both sadistic. You know, they got what they were due. But I feel like I love the mobster story, but then I also love the slasher psychotic villain. So I like both those concepts. And I think Diavolo is highly underrated. A lot of people think he's like one of the worst villains. And I'm like, have you watched a mobster movie? He literally plays the mobster perfectly. Like it's his psychosis of keeping his power created a split personality and stand power. That is the level of psychosis that Diavolo has for his power, that's ultimate motivation for a villain. It's really well portrayed in the power. Part 8, the villain is so out of left field and so unimpressive, and it's like the stand is really cool, but the character attached to it is so unimpressive to me. Now, what you learn, Hart, is that in Part 8, Yasuo had an ex-boyfriend. The ex-boyfriend was named Toru. And Toru is a rock human. He's like 80 years old, but he looks like a high schooler. Rock people, as they do explain a little bit when you were reading the series, rock people are different life forms created from nature out of silicon. And yet they have this side effect where they become stone and have to become statues for periods of their life, which slows down their aging substantially. Thematically, Diavolo is highly underrated. He also he translated very well to anime, in my opinion. I think Valentine, though, thematically is my favorite villain. The concepts, the backstory, all of the elements of Valentine, to me, including where he was in the story, just fit the perfect puzzle. But Diavolo's in my top 3, probably. Anyhow, the rock people despise humanity. The problem is, with that theme in mind, I feel like Araki did not really make a convincing motivation for the rock people beyond, we're the dominant life form, we hate humans, and we bring calamity to them, and we want money, because ultimately the Roakaka fruit was like a Ponzi scheme. It was literally Toru using his stand to impersonate the head doctor at the hospital where Holly was staying, because they were experimenting on Holly, and he was growing this new version of the Roakaka fruit in the hospital. It was just a big scheme to make a lot of money and to control people. The problem is that this character comes in, like in the last third of the story, and is just the villain for, like, he's just there. And then the whole of the time, all these other sub-villains had literally no impact on their world other than harvesting, like trying to distribute the fruit. Like, why was part 5 better, even though it had to do with mobsters? Because even within, the mobsters had problems with each other. It showed the friction of the organization. That showed the corruption that Giorno was trying to rid that society of. But in part 8, it is just one bad guy, one bad guy, one bad guy. We want to sell the fruit. We're rock people. Hooray. Haha. Like, the problem was I wasn't motivated to invest in the rock people's fate. You could have written any other type of character into the rock people's storyline as it was portrayed, and it would have had the same impact. They wanted to sell the fruit because the fruit was appealing to people, because the fruit could heal physical ailments or limitations by turning you into stone. But they realized that market, that motivation, could corrupt people, and they would become dependent on the Rorokaka fruit. But how could Araki have taken this idea of them trying to create a black market for a drug, basically? Let's tie it to a drug trade, right? The rock people are trying to monopolize this fruit and make it like the most desired drug in the world. Okay, so how could we make it even more appealing? Well, what if the Rorokaka fruit had something tied to why the rock people are rock people? More so than was shown in the story. The Rorokaka fruit should have a tie to Devil's Palms. Part 7. Johnny Joestar curses the land in his death. And, like, we really don't get so much more than that. Like, why weren't the Rorokaka a source at the Devil's Palm? Why aren't they included in the mythos that Part 7 set up? That part annoyed the hell out of me. It's just a drug to make money and, like, brainwash people and make them want it, versus something that was tied so deeply to the lore. It would have been amazing, but we never really get it. And Toru as a character, I was actually reading people who love this part, and I was really trying to grasp why they liked it. What Toru is a statue watching the story in front of him and only making his move when the moment is right. He's there the entire time. There's actually this meme going around that Toru was there the whole time. And, like, this is actually a very big spoiler, Heart, so I'm going to warn you, like, this is one of the only highlights of Part 8. At the end, we get a very big cameo. Drum roll. Joseph Joestar, alternate universe Joseph Joestar, is hunting for the Rorokaka fruit. And Toru was there in the flashback. But this is like the second to last chapter. Like, this should have been set up so long ago, and it was thrown in as a little cameo at the very end. And Toru was harvesting the fruit years prior and setting this all up to, you know, monopolize Morio for the rock people. But it's like, bro, this is not sufficient storytelling to get me invested nearly as much as Part 7. And even Part 6, there was so much more at stake. There was so much more going on with the main themes of the story. Part 8 is, it just seems like almost like a side quest, like a waste of time comparatively. Yeah, this guy is trying to find out his true identity. Oh, he finds his real family in the Higashikata family. All is well. Like, dude, the last chapter of Part 8 is them selecting a cake for Josuke to eat in their store. Slice of life, literally, in the last panel. Anyhow, because the Mafia members actually feel more human, despite the friction, They are realistic and interesting. And the thing is, in part 8, Araki was clearly trying to make the rock people emotionless and not human. And I get that, but there wasn't enough there to grab me. Why weren't these rock people like really doing vicious shit? I mean, really vicious. Yeah, I am a big Joseph fan. But and he has Hermit Purple as a redone stand. It's like a actual humanoid stand with the thorns coming out of him, and it's very cool. And we might get more of him in part 9, the JoJolands. So there is some like hope that lives on in the fandom. Like if we get a Joseph and kind of more like an adventure series in part 9, because he has been like tying pieces together from the past pieces, part 4, part 8, part 7 and a little bit of part 1 and 3 kind of. But like this could be like part 3 and 5 together or something like that. Like part 9 if it's a Jojolions. And I hope we can only hope, right? But part 8 lacked the punch. It was a mystery story about this character finding out who he was. And all of this stuff about what was happening to Morio in the world, like, it didn't change that outcome. He found out who he was. Congratulations. Woo! Like, did we need the rock eye? Did we need the walleyes? Did we actually really need the Rorakaka fruit? Not really. Not really in the grand scheme. Holly isn't even like really saved in the end. Holly's like just still in the hospital. It's like, did we really need the fruit at all? Like, yeah, to save Tsurugi and the curse, but do we even really see that conclude? This whole thing about curse and calamity and finding oneself, I just like it didn't mesh together. All of this stuff was just there for being there, and it wasn't necessary. We didn't need the mystery, the fruit, and the plot of the walleyes together. It wasn't tied together well enough, in my opinion. Are you going to read the Josuke and Whole Horse spinoff? Oh, I think I saw an article about that. Yeah, there's a spinoff manga coming out. I might. Spinoffs are fun, more or less for a good time and an artistic interpretation. So, yeah, perhaps. But another thing about part 8 that I didn't love, the stands, the stand abilities were like, they weren't doing it for me. Even the final boss, Toru's stand, the Wonder of You, which is extremely broken, it's still conceptually like, it doesn't lend itself very well to combat. Basically, Toru's stand prevents you from chasing it. And they're trying to chase this stand through a hospital. I think he's a doctor. He's this guy in a bowler hat walking with a cane, right? And you're chasing him. But the whole power is that every time you attempt to chase or think about chasing this entity, a calamity will befall you. So it's literally them chasing the stand versus being chased throughout the whole rest of the part. You dropped it at Blue Hawaii, which was literally the pinnacle of the chasing. And that was just like, I just skimmed through that part. It was bad. Like, we didn't need Blue Hawaii. But I feel you. Like, I see why you lost interest, because all the stand battles were basically them just running away from danger. And we did, like, so then, okay, we flipped the narrative, and now all of a sudden they're chasing the enemy. Great. Like, it doesn't lend itself to a very engaging combat. Oh, yeah, and there are redos from the other parts, and all of the stands have to do with chasing, running, chasing through the city. Like, Yasuho's stand, Paisley Park, is actually very cool. That's my favorite stand of the park. Paisley Park is very interesting. And I think it was the best part of part 8, honestly. Like a humanoid GPS entity that can direct you to the right location. And then as we learn later on, it can actually literally use itself as a conduit for something else. Like, what does Josuke do to beat Toru? He uses the infinite spin. Oh, like he just throws the infinite spin at the very end for reasons. And then you shoot it through Yasuo's phone because it can. And then that hits Toru. And because the ball technically doesn't exist, it hits him. Oh, like this is not. Oh, just to randomly throw the spin in at the end because he can versus hinting to the point where Josuke can use the spin. Oh, another ass pull. It just didn't feel good to me. Yasuo was. Oh, Joshua. Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, Nutbolt King, right? He's a little prick. But if you're talking about like his money schemes on the, oh, hang on, it looks like I lost that briefly. Am I still on? I am. If you want to talk about antic characters and him like trying to rob people, it could be fun. Yes, it could be. But yeah, he was poorly used. The whole family was basically misused. Except for you meet this pretty damn cool character. What the hell is her name even? You meet the wife. Shigeki. Hang on one second. I'm going to look up. So, hold on. I want to find this so I can like actually have a decent discussion here. You know, I want to make sure that what I'm saying makes sense. So, no, come on. It actually. Can you please go to part 8? Thank you. Okay. Doesn't show their pictures. What's the point? Oh, come on, man. Oh, that site sucks. It doesn't even show their pictures. Like I don't remember their names by their faces, so I need to see their faces. A Higashikata house. Holy shit. Do you have pictures? Pictures. Yay. All right, so Norisuke's wife, okay, who you meet near the end, was actually in Green Dolphin Street prison because she was involved in a murder with Jobin, Kid Jobin. And she basically took the blame for it because Kid Jobin was a psychopath. Because Jobin should have been the villain in this part and wasn't. Mitsuba Higashikata. And it says she's a minor character, and she shouldn't have been. That's my point. Either she should have been the antagonist, or Jobin should have been the antagonist. Toru was just a throw-in. And I read a comment literally that Toru was based on a Japanese male model from a magazine that year. Like, it's literally the same outfit. So, literally, Araki threw in a fashion model as the main villain. Are you kidding me? Just unbelievable. But yeah, if you want to look up Mitsuba Higashikata, it'll give you backstory on that whole thing and why she returns to the story. But what's cool about her ability, she creates a point of influence with a triangle. And the point that's pointing away, like she basically can move anything to that direction. It's a directional stand. Again, a lot with navigation, but that's a theme of the part, navigating your world, right? So hang on, let me. So, there's some cool things there as well. But yeah, like Mitsuba comes back, and I was actually getting hyped because she was at Green Dolphin Street, and then she comes back, and I'm like, oh, wait, this is a very cool character. She's been in prison for 15 years. Sound familiar? Like, I thought she was Jolene, but it was his wife, So Norisuke's wife. But again, payoff. I wanted more. I didn't get enough. I feel like these characters were just put in there for the sake of it and not really fleshed out or explored enough, and that just sucked. So hang on a second. No, I didn't. Whatever. So that's my honestly, that's my biggest problem with this part. The use of characters and the payoff and the meaning of the plot doesn't hit a good enough conclusion and resolution, and the world is not impacted enough. Maybe part 7 drained him. The part was so good, a Rocky Black. I mean, listen, here's what okay. Again, there's actually an interesting theme here. I just feel like he failed to get it done and structure it properly and make a good payoff out of it. Because here's the thing. When you introduce a lot of side characters, you are setting yourself up for failure. Because the more side characters you have, the more plots you have to worry about. So if you're going to have a family this big with basically 7 members plus other stand users that matter, that's a lot of side plots you have to deal with. And if you don't flesh out those characters, it's going to feel empty. Like, I think part 6 is highly underrated. But my one gripe with it more than anything is that I wish I saw more of some of the side characters, especially Hermes. Oh my gosh. But other than that, you get so much on the villain, so much on the world setup, so much on the payoff. The payoff is just, we know the ending, amazing. And in this part, you get none of that. You get this guy who learns who he has to be. That's it. That's all that. That's like literally all that happens is Josuke learns who he's meant to be in this world. That's it. That's not a compelling story because you could write that with any setting in any type of media. It could just be some random guy who's a pharmacist and he finds out who he's meant to be because he had amnesia. It's the same. At least in part 6, the whole universe was at stake, as we know. And there are these themes about heaven and the great beyond and religion, which again, part 8 alludes to Adam and Eve. The Sons of Dio were very underwhelming, and I hope the anime makes them a little bit more compelling and the battles at least entertaining. Yes. They were like the leftover Sons of Dio. They were like the last string. Even though they weren't. It's just they were portrayed like such weak little shits, I didn't like them. Yeah, I agree with you. The flying rods, that's all I'm going to say. But the part 8's almost even worse because even the main villain isn't that compelling. And it's like, oh my God, it was at the hospital all along. Oh, the fruit were at the hospital. No way. Where we started? Why were the walleyes not more important? Why wasn't Jonathan Joestar, the new corpse part from Jesus? The whole point of part 7 was to bless America through Christ, which is actually something that is somewhat related to the country's history, because westward expansion, manifest destiny, is a real thing that happened in history where Christianity tried to influence the world going west. Now, in JoJo's, it goes east, but it's the same idea. It's the same idea. And in part 8, we get like none of that. There is an allusion to Adam and Eve, that the rock humans were the legitimate life forms, but then that humanity stole their place. But it's not sold enough. Araki doesn't show us that torment, that the rock people are like living these miserable lives. He doesn't really show it. Like that zombie who does Blue Hawaii, to me, that was the most articulate portrayal of how the rock people are suffering as a species. But Toru is like this clean-cut high school male model. He's not he's not suffering. Not in appearance anyway. He's just shown as having grown from a wasp nest, which, by the way, I don't know if you understand this part because I think you stopped reading before they talked about this, but how the rock people are born, holy shit, go look at Wikipedia on the rock people. It is one of the most out of body theories that Araki's ever come up with. Oh, well, the thing about, that's a Godfather reference. Have you seen The Godfather? Which has one of the best endings in probably storytelling. Have you seen The Godfather before? And I'm just going to get a little water. Give me 1 second. Okay, so yeah, the baptism. I mean, are we like, how do these gangsters find enlightenment, right? Yeah, usual suspect, that's right. I mean, how do the absolutely corrupted uncorrupt themselves, or can they? It's a question that these stories ask the viewer. Like, are these people redeemable? Can you redeem yourself after all this, the heinous pain and crime you've caused? Who truly is good in this world? And these are things that part 5 does ask you. Because, as you were talking about, like the mobsters had a humanity to them and imperfections, and they were aware of them. That's why sometimes they could be your best friend if the situation called for it. And then Silver Chariot Requiem, literally like changing the souls of everybody, because what are we but what we make of ourselves? If you could, like, in that scenario, Silver Chariot was flipping everything on its head. Imagine everything in your life taken away from you. What would you do then? Would you just be an empty vessel, or would you make something with it? They gave into the devil. Yes, diavolo. And his greatest sin was committed underground. I love that. I love that he did that in a basement underground of the building. That is like perfect symbolism. And then that his first death to Requiem was by a drugged out homeless person, which is the exact person he created in his pursuit of power. He died to his own ambitions. That is exactly how they kill mobsters in these movies. They die to their ambitions. Look at what happened to Tessio in The Godfather. Tessio took advantage of the situation, so much so that, yeah, he achieved a lot by feeding intel, but that's what did him in. The family found out. And then he said it was just business. Well, yeah, your aspirations caught up with you, and you will now pay the price. You know, Dio as like literally the world, like there is this whole theme of capturing the world in your hands. And that's a very prevalent theme in a lot of media. This is back like Shakespeare and stuff. But yeah, the world is literally what you need to grab and hold in your hand. Yeah. And Diavolo, like if we look at the lore, Diavolo was heavily involved in the era and the concept. I mean, and that's the ultimate power. And yet, because of his actions and hubris, he wasn't ultimately meant to have it. All that ambition, all that power, but the way he got his power made him unworthy in the end. That's literal, tragic Godfather mobster 101. That's Scarface, getting all this money, getting all this power, but at what cost? And that's why he's underrated. And I think that some people who don't love Part 5, they might not be very exposed to mobster and these like, you know, crime, power hungry style series. It is the internal debate on at what means do you get your power? And is the pursuit of power ultimately worth it? That is huge. Yeah. But guess what? Part 8, Toru's motivation, trash. He wants to make a lot of money. And he's just thrown in at the last minute. Oh, but he was a rock person. He was there. He was there. He was a statue. But like he's just been standing there watching. That's not motivating. That's not convincing writing. Yes, he's a rock literally set in his ways, unable to change, but that's boring. The rock humans should have been wronged at one point, tremendously wronged, horribly wronged, and having to stand there and watch it as their world is taken away from them. That would have been convincing. Then I would have believed a lot more the plot of trying to monopolize this fruit to brainwash people into using it, basically, and getting their money and taking away their money, which was their stability as a society. People need to be educated when it comes to human nature. Now, here's the thing. Like, I can tell you that when I was younger, I didn't know all of the mobster movies. And I'd always been told, these are like some of the best stories. And I'm like, yeah, it's like fighting and violence, but damn. Like, watch The Irishman. What it tells you as a story. You know, loyalty is incredible. Loyalty is extremely important. And you can find loyalty in the darkest of places, you know, but don't abuse your loyalties. Don't treat people with disrespect, or else you too will fall. Again, it's how do you use your power and how do you get it? Don't abuse it. Don't treat people with disrespect or distemper. Make sure you respect people. That's what the stories tell you. And power is great, but you will lose it if you mistreat people. That's ultimately what these types of stories tell you, right? That's why you see all of these assholes with money in the world who abuse it. Go to islands and do some dirty shit. They avoid taxes instead of, helping societies. They invest in causes that are hurting the world literally today. These are all the questions that you have to ask yourself. What good is power if you destroy the world through it? Machiavelli. Giorno was literally the healing factor, that the healing of society. And Diavolo was the poison. Yes. But if you want to look at something really cool that I came out of with this arc, and then the anime really sold this idea, is that Mozart is the best musician in that series. Because think about it. All of these other musicians are great, but Mozart is the golden requiem. Mozart is the golden experience. And literally he was standing above all at the end of that arc. Mozart reclaimed the throne that music bastardized for all those years. Like, it's a symbolic meaning. Yeah, respect your heritage, respect the history of where you come from. Don't abuse it. Don't destroy it. Even if you become the one in charge, you better respect that land. You better respect those people. But that's another thing, like the musical references and themes in these parts. Part 8 has some references, but like seeing Made in Heaven, seeing Requiem, even Dio, Holy Diver, which is about his story starting in part 3. Look at Valentine, Love Train. Look at those things and stories. Part 8, The Wonder of You. No. No. Wonder of You. Elvis is king, but very little of that has to do with. I mean, there's this whole thing about chasing somebody you care about. Like, okay, like, wow, it just doesn't hit, man. It doesn't hit the same. Part 7's reference, Love Train, is the theme of the power and the song it's probably one of Araki's best achievements in terms of like connecting those things together. America is cursing the world by preventing calamity and sending it elsewhere through a guy who thinks that he has been chosen by Christ, even though he's technically a multidimensional entity, which means that he is not even true to himself. He is a copy of himself. He's not even authentic. That's just like America. It's just fucking awesome. Okay, hang on. I gotta just take this for a second. I'll be back. Okay. I might have to go in a little bit, but I do want to keep talking for a little bit more here. It looks like we're approaching an hour, so you know, and I think I've talked about most of what I didn't love about this part. Poor payoff, poor villain. I wanted more of the themes to impact the world and the lore, the walleyes, the whole idea of equal exchange, instead of just the guy finds out who he has to be in life. Yay! Like our past doesn't define us. Big deal. That's like such a generic plot. Oh, and then like Yoshikage Kira's impact on the world before him being very minimal, and Johnny Joestar just freaking dying to the curse, and then this whole theme that like he's in a shrine there, but like what's the impact? And why wasn't Johnny a new saint, or like the corpse parts could have been reestablished Morio, and that would have been a mystery way more interesting than the fruit. I'm afraid. Like if the corpse parts, if Johnny became the new Jesus in Morio or a saint, and you have to find Johnny's body parts, like in part 7, now we have a narrative. Now that's a mystery right there. And then what if that curse at the walleyes is what caused Josuke to become who he is? Doppio's death is beautiful and tragic. Huh. Giorno being the true Jesus is interesting because he heals, right? So there is a thought there. The only thing you could argue is that would he have to die to be the true Jesus? Seriously, because that's the idea. You become enlightened through death. In a sense. Right. But Araki literally writes Jesus into the story. I mean, that's like he went there. Like Jesus was the first stand user that we know of in a historical sense, right? Did enlightenment lead to being a stand user? Probably. That's probably what this all is. Like stands, we know stands come from a meteorite, but meteorites have been falling for millions of years. Very true. Very true. You could depict that as the soul being reincarnated. That's a great point. Sorry, there's scheduling issues for a delivery to my house. Oh, my God. Good. Okay. I may have to go for a little bit. So, well, I'll let you know. Actually, you know what? I'll probably keep this on, but I may have to leave and go deal with something. And then we can continue the conversation. But, yes, you're absolutely right. And the rancha, the flowers, that was... Ugh. Fugo was supposed to be Judas. Huh. But here's something else you could ask yourself. Is in the new universe, like we literally have Jesus versus representations in the first part. And we had Diego. So what's interesting is like there appears to be a greater established separation between the religious entities and the mortals in part 7 and 8. But in the earlier parts, there are a lot of direct references to those characters embodying those ideals, which is very interesting. Like Poochie was a saint to try to resurrect Jesus in a way, attain heaven, bless the universe, so to speak. It's interesting. These are very interesting themes and questions. What could Part 9 do? I really want Part 9 to, first of all, we know that the world itself, the Earth, is a site of power and influence. The palm, the walleyes, although I wish you did more with the walleyes, but it remains. There are these landmarks of great power. And one thing that I could think of is the Garden of Eden, where people came from. Because we just got this backstory about the rock humans being born of silicon, but carbon-based life forms. If we're going this far, could Jojolion's introduce the concept of Adam and Eve and the Garden of Eden? Because we need to, like, that would at least tie more of going into this backstory with the rock people versus the regular people. So it would be interesting to see if, like, the rock people were excluded from the Garden of Eden. And that would be very interesting. So if we get the Garden of Eden or a landmark like that, I would be very impressed and I would enjoy that. Because we're going there. We're going there with those themes from Part 7. So there's a lot of potential in Part 9. I just hope Araki keeps it focused and makes the payoff really worth it and make the stakes very high and intense, because Part 8 didn't have it. Finding one's identity is not the most compelling story when you compare it to what's come before. Well, that's the thing. Because of Part 8, I'm a little bit less certain as to what Part 9 is going to be now. Because Part 8 didn't do enough. I mean, we know the world is a site of power. But Part 8 didn't really go into the religious aspect, which I thought it would. You know, Part 7 did, Part 8 did not. Part 8 went more into evolution and biology. Evolution is clearly a theme of both parts. Part 8 more so. But could it be creating a new life form even? If we have rock people and humans, maybe there's a way to create life or a new species altogether. It could be. The only thing we know for sure is it will have stands. You can put money on that. I mean, if it doesn't have stands, even Steel Ball Run had stands. And he was trying to really go off the beaten path with that. And we're going to have stands. Now, the question is, will we introduce a similar system to Requiem in this part? Not the same thing, but the spin, we know the spin is still there, and the universal law of infinity. So will they be able to create an immortality complex? Live forever? You know, that's always a very generic desire in a lot of these grand stories, right? So could there be a key to immortality in Part 9 in JoJo Lands? Because we're learning about infinity in a spin. And it's a mathematical principle that if you become small enough, you will not exist at all. So something infinitely small that's spinning is spinning infinitely. Hart, what was your Favorite part about, well, there's a lot, but part 7 were some of the highlights that you have. Oh my God, back and forth with these people. Oh my gosh. I mean, for me, I feel like part 7's best attribute was the themes of the characters' motivations. Like the spin is really cool as a concept, but America and Valentine's crusade, basically, and the whole biblical implications of the steel ball run. Like as the story went on, I just kept getting glued to the screen more and more and more. When it's animated, it's going to be amazing. And then, of course, there's this whole idea of your duality and dimensionality as a person. Like, what makes you. Yeah, Johnny was a selfish prick. That's true. And sometimes I was like, Johnny, you piece of crap. Like, what are you doing, man? He can be very hot headed too, just like very quick to judge and very quick to react. And Valentine was always thinking, pondering, what is the first napkin? Exactly. These. Hang on, I'm going to have to just take this for a second. Oh, sorry. Like, this is just a back and forth between. I have I'm getting like a jet tub delivered, and just the scheduling back and forth, and then I have to go and get stuff at the store, and like no one can agree to a fucking time. It's like, oh my god, and I just okay. A villain who does what he does out of principle. Mm-hmm. Morally ambiguous characters. Morally, yes. Mm-hmm. And also the thing about part 5 that people like, I this is a part of part 5 that just by default makes it better than part 8, in my opinion. The flashbacks, the character development. Just, and I see so few people talking about how much you cared about the gang. How much did you care about Narancia when he died? I felt that. I felt sorrow. Even though I knew these weren't the best people, I felt bad when that happened. And part 8 has no backstory except for the evolution of rock people. So I didn't give two shits about the Higashikata family. Yasuho's a good character, but even that, she has a backstory. And her, like, there is, that's one of the reasons she's my favorite character in part 8. I like the backstory stuff. Tsurugi has a curse that applies to his life and his fate. I like that. But again, you see how the whole gang had backstory and how their world let them down or their world abused them. And that's why they have to do what they do. Every mobster movie has done this, that you see the struggle of the immigrant, which is literally a reason why they turned to gambling, drugs, and the mob. The mob was their outlet. That's the whole point. It's such a good story. And yet those motivations are absent in a lot of part 8, unfortunately, because the characters aren't fleshed out even half as well as part 5. Yeah. But even so, I would say that, like, unless they completely pull it out of their ass in part 8, you're not going to get flashbacks at all for some of these characters. You're just not, because there's not even a hint of them existing. So at least, like, I see the attempt to make you care about these characters and care about their struggle and their story. It does it very well. Like, part 6 is not as good in that regard. And I noticed a considerable drop in that aspect. You know, Anasui, Foo Fighters, like, Airmaid's had a back, like, yeah, but no, but yeah, but no. Yeah. Well, let's put it this way. I hope so. I hope they do. Like, if they what if they show Foo Fighters as plankton in the ocean? And the plankton's getting eaten by a whale. And then these plankton are like, oh shit, I just lost my family by the whale. And then the plankton goes into the river. I was a little bummed out by Fugo, but his power was just stupid. And I see his betrayal in the sense that he left the gang to, suffer. But yeah, what can I say? Jimi Hendrix is fucking awesome, right? Yo, but seriously, like, connecting this to Hunter x Hunter, I feel like part 5, part 7, like they hit a vibe to me. They strike a chord with me. And part 6 has a grandiose scale that's like, wow, and lore building, which is fantastic. But part 5 and 7 hit this vibe for me with like Hunter x Hunter in mind. You care about the characters, but there's a lot of conflict in those stories. And that conflict has to exist. Part 8, the conflict was way too little comparatively. Like the conflict is the guy doesn't know who he is. Wow, I'm blown away by that premise. Not really. It just doesn't do it for me. Interesting. So Fugo was going to be the main baddie to help Diavolo. Yeah, he chose to remain ignorant to his right. Absolutely. And it's funny, like he failed to cross the river, which is also very symbolic. So he was going to help Diavolo. Yeah, and then how would they? Can you imagine the fight against Purple Haze? Holy shit! Like Narancia could dive bomb it and shit if he was still alive by that point. But imagine the fight against Purple. Oh God! Like Giorno would have had to come up with some crazy shit. Like maybe a plant that gets rid of the venom. Can you imagine if he like somehow pulled that out of his ass? He got the antidote from a plant. That would be fucking crazy, man. I also feel like part 5, the conflicts had a very good duration, 1 to 2 episodes, and they were pretty consistent with that the whole way through. I liked how they were succinct, episodic conflicts that had resolutions and that moved the story along. Because in part 8, all of the conflicts were basically one chapter, and they were like really not significant to the overall story. Yeah. Yeah. So, look, by the way, like I've been doing creative writing for a while. I've taken some like online courses with writing and storytelling. And Araki's a fucking genius. That no one can debate that. In terms of his ability to craft a world, he's about as good as it gets. Some might say Oda is the king of world building, but I do love how Araki gets themes and uses them to fuel the narrative. He doesn't just pull random shit out of nowhere. There is a theme to when he starts writing. There's a theme. Now, whether or not he follows it as well from one part to another could vary, or if he like kind of sways and does other stuff mid-story, which happened in part 8, unfortunately. Like he literally changed the villain from the guy Jobin to Toru for no fucking reason. Other than Toru was a popular male model in Japan at the time. Like the character was based on a popular male model. Whoa, like come on, man. This dude got a boner for a male model. Clearly. Like that's why he put him in the story. I think the thing with Araki is he can be sporadic and kind of jump a little too high sometimes, if you know what I'm saying. He gets a little like he can go a little too far out there for his own good. Sometimes condensing your themes to make them flow better is a good tactic. sometimes like complexity is one thing, but sporadic subplots and side themes and motivations that don't really tie to what that central story is can be a huge detractor to the end result. You always have to have conflict. You always have to have character progression, and the actions of the character have to impact their progression and the world that they live in. Always. It doesn't matter how minimal the story is. You have to have that development happen. So random side shit that doesn't matter will detract from your story. It could be the coolest thing visually. It could be oh my God, like this guy learned how to fly. But how does that really impact the story about how this person lost his brother 3 years ago? You gotta tie shit together. If the guy was learning to fly because he could go fly to heaven, if you believe it, then that's a narrative that goes to the death of the brother. But in part 8, some of the stuff he introduced did very little to further what was already established and make me interested in the plot and the narrative. Part 4, the first half was terrible. I hated it. Slice of life anime high school bullshit. Like, I didn't care about all the fucking shit going on, the little stand battles like that had no meaning to the story, even if they were symbolic. Did it really matter? Did it really matter? No, it didn't matter. But in Hunter x Hunter, shit fucking matters. Almost every conflict or fight or arc does something to the story that's being told. It impacts the narrative. As a great example, look at a fight like the troop versus the ants, which would normally just be considered some subplot, but look at what it actually is showing you. Look at how it built a whole world that is connected to the Phantom Troops' motivations as a group. This is their homeland. This is where they come from. And some invasive species that we've just learned to hate is now destroying it. And they fight to save it, which makes you really care about the Phantom Troop, these villains you have hated. And that dynamic in itself is just genius. The way the Phantom Troop are handled, it's arguably the best villain group betrayal, right? So Red Hot Chili Pepper was a little better than the horrible second half. Yeah, fair enough. How about the tower? Oh, God. The alien, like I don't even remember his name, the fucking alien. Like who cares about a fucking alien? I don't care. I don't fucking care about some tower and some alien. Holy shit, man. Wear tinfoil on your head. Akira, you mean Akira? Yoshikage? I mean, hey, agree to disagree. I liked Kira overall, but again, it's because I like that psychotic. See, the thing with Kira, he has a little bit of the Hisoka thing going on, a little bit of the how deranged is this guy? Like, really? So that's I like his on-screen persona and his personality. And Killer Queen as a stand power, the design. I really like the power and the design system. But I could totally see why you wouldn't like the character. Because, again, I think the overall plot and world had weaknesses in it, and flaws and holes that Kira couldn't fill as a villain. I totally see it. But I kind of like Kira. It's just my opinion, though. Oh, Kira is the red... Oh, yeah. Okay. Unfortunately, there were a lot of them in Part 4. Just like Part 8, a lot of underwhelming villains. Part 5, even though the villains were short-lived, like every time you go back and watch Pesci and Prosciutto, I like the fight more and more and more and more the more I watch it. That dynamic is fabulous. The character progression in that series of events is fabulous. Like Pesci was fishing for his balls and he found them. Like that's the idea. Like he was, yes, you know, and he did it. Well, to be fair, he got outsmarted by the one thing he didn't have experience with because he didn't have a family. So that was, in a way, his weakness, right? If you look at it, which is interesting. He couldn't connect to his childhood. That's how fucked up he was. So in a way, he couldn't think like a kid. And he was so possessed with his own habitual lifestyle. And it took many tries. The future was the present was reset many, 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 many times. But he did get outsmarted. You're right. And yeah, how could this fool let that happen? Also, how could he let the sandwich and get switched out? You know, I think it's a good question. Where is the tension? Look, I would have to go review part 4 again and rewatch a lot of it, to be honest with you. But I remember part 4's tension when, you know, the little fat kid died. That's when the tension started. Koichi? No, Koichi's the spiky kid. When he died, that's when the tension started. When Kira redid his personality, or he got the surgery, or changed his appearance and all that, like, this is American Psycho. Literally like American Psycho. He even looks a little bit like Christian Bale's. Like, there's a look and appeal to that where it's like, okay, this guy is fucking deranged, right? I didn't really care about Shigeki, especially given how goofy the character looked. Like, what the fuck is that? We have aliens, and then we have this thing with the spiky. What the fuck is this? But his death was still a kid dying in a school. Like, that's pretty hard shit. That's pretty hard shit to take. You know? Yeah, I mean, I think. And hey, welcome. It looks like someone else has joined the stream. Welcome. I've been going on for a while here, but Hart and I have been doing a lot of discussions about JoJo's. I was talking about part 8, and we're kind of talking about part 4, but I'm open to really talking about almost anything at the moment. So, like JoJo's in particular, but. Oh, right. I always forget that it was that early. Yeah, it could have been. Hey, family, guts up. Yes, I did finish part 8, and I didn't love it. And I just went through a whole video explaining why and discussing with Hart, who also doesn't love it but didn't finish it. Did you like part 8? And if you did like part 8, I'd love to hear why. That'd be great discussion. And if you didn't like it, you know, that too. Yeah, it's amazing, Hart, like what themes are out there that they could come from other. I mean, let's be real here. Like, there are pieces of art, there are old stories, ancient stories where a lot of these themes come from, and it's just hard to know their source. But you're right. Like, I really see American Psycho in Kira's design. The character that could snap at any moment but doesn't show it on their face, you know, that hides what their true intentions are. Killer Queen not having a legitimate expression also really ties behind the fact that Kira was faceless. And the idea that he changed his appearance was also very thematically appropriate to that character. So that's kind of where I like Kira. Thematically, it does go for the emotionless, faceless villain that you don't know what their intent will ultimately be, what they'll do. Diavolo, extreme malice and corruption to a point where you create a second personality. And what I liked about the placement of both is that you look at psychosis in two different ways. Two different ways that psychosis could manifest in people, where one is completely antisocial and faceless. And then the other is dual personality and just splits who they are because they're so paranoid about their power. And that is a great dynamic. I'm glad. This is good. Okay, so Family Guy, you like, and Hart, we can have a 3-person discussion here. This is a lot of fun. First of all, Hart and I also don't love Part 4. I'm a bigger fan of Kira than Hart is as a character. But it's clear that there's something about these Morio parts that people prefer or don't prefer. And it's very interesting that these parts kind of split the fan base, I feel, more so than the other parts. Because focusing the plot on this town has benefits, but in my opinion, the characters have to really, really shine when you limit the plot to this little area, because the adventure part gets condensed. So if the adventure is not grand, the characters have to captivate you. And I agree with you. Toru was a big letdown to me and not necessary. That was almost even the bigger crime. Why was Toru used? Because he was a male model in Japan, which he was. That was a male model I read. The design was from a magazine. It was like the most popular fashion look of that or something of that year. And he just literally ripped it out and put it into a character. And why wasn't what's his face? Jobin or hell? You could have had Mitsuba being the pulling of the strings from behind the scenes and overthrowing the family. That was very interesting, but it had nothing to do with the ultimate plot. Hart, what do you? I see people who don't love 4. But I see people who call it the best part in the series. I'm not one of them, but I see it because Part 4 has a very. I feel like it connects to people who like the high school anime a lot. If you like your teenage, it's like you're, walking to school, the girl that you have a crush on, or the girl who's insane. These are all tropes that we see in Japanese stories and media across the landscape. It's not as bizarre, even though there's bizarre stuff in it, right? The setting is more grounded, right? Family Guy is 4. Did you say was 4 it's your favorite part? So Family Guy, would you say that Part 4, the set, this might be very difficult. If you could rank what about Part 4 is your favorite, would you be able to list the top 3 or something setting or the villain or Josuke, the power system, the overall plot? What would you say is your favorite aspects of the part? I kind of agree, Hart, as well, but like, they're all wearing school uniforms, and you don't really get away from that. And you're right, it's like it's in your mind, and it kind of is a glue. But I see what you're saying. It's almost like a horror school anime with a slasher killer, right? The fact that Shigeki gets killed in the school is the most tragic part. And then, of course, you have the soul and the dimension to heaven and hell, basically. Now, that part, man, like, why didn't part 8 have shit like that in it? We have the walleyes, we have the Curse of Johnny Joestar, but why the hell didn't we have literal heaven and hell there? Why weren't the rock people born from hell? That should have been the theme. If we're going to go that far, like we had Jesus in part 7, why couldn't we have literal hell in part 8 with the rock people? Or having them born from the walleyes. It would have been, oh man, I wish. I don't have a Discord. To be frank, I don't stream very often, as you probably know. But when I have the motivation to do a topic, I usually do. But I might consider it. My life's about to get a lot busier, so I'm kind of enjoying it now while I have the chance. Family Guy, you enjoy the atmosphere and the vignette style stories, and of course, Kira and everything with him. This is great because we're having 3 individual opinions here about the same part. This is the best. This is when, I love seeing what people think about a show or a story, and then like where the crosses could be, like I actually think part 4 is better than part 8 because of Kira. And Hart, thank you for stopping by. I really appreciate the time, and it was really great talking about the series. Won't be the last time I do a discussion, though, especially, if Jojolion comes out within the next year or two, and I'm not in a nursing home by then, which is my fear of Hunter x Hunter. It'll never come back, and I'll never be able to do a video on it like while it's live, and it pains me so. But with Jojolion, I might be doing more like, chapter-based videos where we could talk about shit. So this could become something with Jojolion, all things considered. So I hope that happens. But yeah, back to this discussion here. Let's see what time it is. All right. So both you and I, Family Guy, love Kira, and Hart does not like Kira, which is great because we have opinions on the same thing. Oh yeah, World Trigger. I'll look into that too eventually. Is it on? Is it a manga or anime or both? Or what medium is it currently shown in? Yasuo-chan. Okay. Let me guess, right? It has both currently. Oh, okay, cool. Look, I'll give it a shot, but I gotta tell you, what you guys should be prepared for. I'm going to give you guys a little head start here. Cowboy Bebop on Netflix, of course, Stone Ocean, Ant-Man, my friend. You guys know from the Hunter x Hunter videos. He has never seen Stone Ocean. He's not caught up to that. So he's going to go in blind. And I'm very excited to watch the anime. So we're going to probably do some videos on it and maybe like some actual reactions. We might try it. I don't want copyright though. Like, my biggest fear is fucking copyright and the sound. They just, these fucking algorithms, man, are terrible. But yeah, it was a great time, Hart. Thank you. And Family Guy. Oh, okay. Hard. I'll see what I can do and put that in my list. Okay. But and thank you for the recommendation. And Family Guy Part 8. You are absolutely right. It became a juggling act. Things were thrown in and directions were changed, almost like the Born This Way ability, right? Like he's navigating throughout his own story and changing direction and shit. Sounds good. Yeah. With World Trigger, cool. But yeah, with Part 8, I agree with you. Was Toru necessary? Every time I see a character, and I do this in creative writing too. I've actually done some novel writing. Never finished anything, but I have some ideas. And the one thing I ask is this character necessary? Is what this character doing necessary? It has to be necessary, even if it's not the main focus, because you still need to have a central plot that develops, no matter what is on the page or on screen or whatever. What is being shown has to improve a narrative, or at the very least has to build on the character's progression and their development. And if it doesn't, it has no purpose being there. Now, if you're going for comedy, that's a little different, but still, I feel exactly like Part 8 became too multi-directional, and we just started meeting characters that really didn't have to be there ultimately. And then we go back to the hospital after the complex is burned, and now it's the hospital and the doctors again. Oh, and there's Toru. He was an ex-lover, by the way. Just make sure you want to know that. And then he has a stand that you have to chase but can't. So then you have to use an infinitely small spin to beat it through a phone. Where are the walleyes and all that? Where is the, why, like, what if Kira had been a really core concept in why the rock humans exist? Or what if Kira was a rock person and Josuke was half rock person, half regular person? Wow. Now that would have been interesting. So I wish there was more to what the story started with. And then this idea of flow was introduced, and I get it, but did it really impact the story? Go with the flow. Okay. Feng Shui. Gotcha. Great. Flowing customers into the fruit store. Okay. I get it. Okay, so listen to this, okay? I actually think the rock people are a pretty decent idea, but very poorly implemented. So Family Guy, listen to this concept, right? Imagine if the rock people were there first. And in the ancient days, the rock people created empires and kingdoms and had statues of themselves. But because of their curse, they turned to stone. And because of this, humanity started to surpass them. And they could just stand there and watch as they were being forgotten about because of their statue issue, right? So what if literally the idea was they were tired of being stepped on and they were tired of being ignored because they had been basically the founders of history. Now, I wish that was more the focus versus they just don't like people because they're different life forms. And they learned to kill at an early age in the wasp hive. I mean, that's based on sharks. But come on, like And by the way, I know the theme of part 8 is about the tsunamis that hit Japan and natural disaster. So I kind of get that they're emotionless entities of calamity, but it doesn't like really grab me. I wish they had more motivation and character. And the idea of being ignored is a powerful one, especially if you had the power at one point, but you're cursed. And what if the fruit had something to do with removing your curse of becoming a statue? Like stone people could then reclaim their earth. It kind of is implied that that's what it is, but I just don't feel like it was fleshed out enough. And like the rock people, like Toru's death. I mean, come on, was that satisfying? Even the Kakashi. What if Jobin was a rock person? What if the Higashikatas always had rock people in their lineage? And what if Mitsuba was a rock person this whole time? So there were parts of the family that are rock people. Imagine the divide, like the secret divide where that would be, right? And I know it's like really focusing on that dynamic, not just implying it, but like really focusing on it. That could be a huge part of why the rock people are motivated, why they're doing what they're doing. Not just the fact that they do it. You know, like one of the images I thought of with the rock people is imagine if you were a statue and then you were defiled with graffiti every day by punks, like ruining your skin. And really showing that as you are disrespecting me. I would actually feel these beings are helpless. They're just standing there and they're getting defiled. Or pieces fall off and the humans throw them away or they discard them. Imagine that. And you can't do anything about it while your body is being discarded. That would be terrifying. That would be bad for the soul, for the psyche. The rock humans, the problem is Araki started going all this biology shit that had the biology explanation did very little to affect the characters, the personalities, the individuals. Basically what we learn is that they're just bad from birth. That's not compelling writing at all. I could write that with any plot, any setting, any characters. They're bad from birth. They're not human. Okay, they're not human. So what? Now why do they despise humans so much? As a theme, remember arguably the worst part of the arc is Blue Hawaii, and actually Hart stopped reading because of Blue Hawaii. That's how poorly he took that part of the story. He stopped reading mid-fight, right? But Blue Hawaii's user, remember that little zombie guy? Like, he looked so deformed and abused. That's the story. Where is that story? Where is he just comes from the swamp. But what if this guy was like stepped on, literally stepped on and stepped on and stepped on. And like they kept, dirt on him and snow on him and they never respected him. And like, where is that story? I wish there was more here. I wish they went that extra mile. I wish he went to those themes, man. It sucks. I would not be opposed to that. And by the way, because of Joseph Joestar, there's a theory going around that part 9 is going to be him leading a new group, possibly to New Zealand, where the Rakakara come from. Isn't it New Zealand or Papua New Guinea? No, New Guinea, excuse me, right? But if the fruit, why do the fruit exchange people's body parts? To me, this idea of body parts is one of the few things that I really connect with part 7. The corpse parts, not dying, the fruit of Eden. It was actually alluded to that the fruit and the stone people have connections to the Garden of Eden. There's a panel showing Adam and Eve in the rock human backstory or background. And I thought, wow, this is probably an allusion to Adam and Eve. And it makes sense. Rock people could be Adam, humans could be Eve. There could be a struggle, and then the fruit that captivates you, the temptation of the Rarakaka, or however you pronounce it, that's the temptation by the snake, which could have been Toru. Toru could have been the snake, but just not depicted well enough. The snake of temptation. And the fact that Toru was like in a tree, kind of, was more symbolic of me that he was the snake in the Garden of Eden. But if part 9 actually goes to Eden, where humanity originated, I would be fucking amazed by that. Yes. And now we're talking. Now we're talking. If you want to get the Bible and biology together, which these last two parts the last part did, like Poochie found heaven and we got to heaven, but now we look at a multi-dimensional universe where religion and science are now both at the middle of it all in a lot of ways. And so that to me is what I'm hoping for most in part 9 is we can get like biology and religion legitimately being at the epicenter of everything. The question I have, though, is like Valentine was arguably my favorite villain. And Toru is arguably my least favorite, besides a couple of forgettable part 1 villains. But what villain could we have in part 9? And, do you want to go all out and crazy and be like Satan himself? Like, do we want to go literally to the hell dimension? Okay. The journey to hell. Like, literally, this could be the journey to hell. A lot of potential, but I'm concerned. I'll be honest there. So I'm very excited. What do you think? Do you have any thoughts about part 9 and what might be on the horizon, or any things you hope are in the part? I still think the corpse part, I still think the idea of curses are going to be big here, and maybe even the 100 years in the future, full futuristic. I would like a futuristic story from him because he could get very creative with it. Oh yeah. I also thought of something like Fist of the North Star style, where it's like post-apocalyptic. That's the future, but it's a post-apocalyptic future. Oh, bro, if we got Fist of the Stand, oh, yes, I would fucking love that. There's no water left. All the towns are empty and there's sand everywhere. Oh, come on, that would be fucking fire. Do you think there's any chance that he would actually have a, well, probably not. I was going to ask, like, do you think because Yasuho was a really good female character, like, would he make a female lead here or a co-lead for this part? I know Jolene was a big gamble, but like a totally new idea, a totally new character from the Joestar line, like, I've thought about that too. If you think about it, 6 and 9 are reverses of each other, right? So it could be alternate universe Jolene, and with the anime coming out, imagine the timing there. So I've also been thinking about that. Yeah, alt Jolene, bro. Oh. I'm sorry, Jolene. I do love Jolene. I mean, look, Part 6 has its flaws, but I think it's underrated. I think the anime is going to make it a lot better. I hope the censorship isn't too bad. Like, I still want to see the lynching in the backstory. Like, that matters. That adds a lot of weight to the backstory, right, of Weather Report and Poochie. And, you know, there's some other things that could be censored, but I hope not. I hope we get a raw, gritty, fairly adult part, right? All these characters are up, well, except for Emporio, but is that true? Is Emporio like older because of his dimension? Hang on a minute. Dude, I think the anime is gonna really help the part a lot. And I think its fights are some of the best in the series overall. And of course it is the best ending. I hear very few people saying, oh, Part 6's ending wasn't that great. I think everyone says Part 6 ended tremendously. No, it says he was a young Stan user. He's 11 years old. Okay, no, he's 11. He literally means boy in Spanish. Okay. So no, Emporio is a young character, but anyhow, I think there is a chance that Jolene, alternate Jolene, and maybe with an alternate Joseph. Imagine that. I know Jotaro's always loved by everybody, but imagine like a Joseph and Jolene grandfather granddaughter adventure in this parallel universe for Part 9. Wow. Oh my God. The Hermit Purple and Stone Free variant, like the strings and the thorn. Oh man. Can I get on this writing team? Come on. Come on, man. Let's go. I want to start writing fucking fanfic of that shit, man. Because arguably, I would have to say, like, I think Joseph and Jolene are like my favorite personalities from the main characters. I think that's an accurate statement. I think I like their personalities the most. Giorno's amazing. Jotaro's cool as shit. Jonathan is Jonathan, and Jonathan Part 7 is an asshole. But I think I like just the gung-ho, like, fuck you attitude. And then, like, Joseph's antics. It would be, Jolene saying, stop running, old man. And he'd be like, good luck. Like, I'm out of here. Like, the dynamic would be fucking amazing between the two. And welcome. It looks like someone else joined the stream. Welcome. I'm going to be here for a little bit more, maybe 10 or 15 more minutes. But I talked a lot in this video about why I didn't love Part 8 overall. And I actually had a discussion with another viewer. We checked the comment thread. We were going back and forth about a lot of good stuff. And basically, I thought the part was a little sporadic. Some of the ideas weren't utilized, and the villain and payoff just weren't enough for me. And I wish we learned a lot more about the history of the Rock people, their motivations as characters, why they hate humans so much, and why the fruit had such a vital role to ancient times beyond just the fact that it like creates stone in the body parts and was a part of the equal exchange. maybe part 9 will help us more with that. But that was my overall feeling. And you can watch the video playback. I mean, at least an hour on the subject. So, given the title, I'm guessing it'll be more of a journey. So, people who didn't like part 8, I love journeys. That's why I'm looking forward to this. Like, I want an adventure. I want a bizarre adventure. You know, that's the one thing about part 3 I fucking love is the adventure. You're on an adventure. Thank you. When Joseph goes into the Egyptian bathroom, I couldn't stop laughing. When the old lady chased with the magnetic episode, I literally was crying. I mean, that's the power of what the anime can do to this stuff, but the writing was there. Like the setup was there. Oh, hey, Hart, you're back. What's up? Yo. Damn. Yo, Family Guy, time travel to the different parts. I mean, shit, man. We have different universes, yeah. The one thing we haven't done is gone back in time. If you think about it, we've gone forward, but we haven't gone backward. Are you telling me that we're going to go back to the race? Back to the time when the fruit was found? Back to the biblical era? So instead of, we were talking about post-apocalyptic future stuff, Fist of the Stand, which I would love, but it could also be the past when, Jesus was around. It could be the Bible. It could be literally the trip to Bethlehem. It could literally be the 3 wise men, which part 3 kind of did, but I mean, like, legitimately so. And then, Hart, you're saying, I've always had the story idea of the Death 13 baby. That's the one with the computer, right? Who's grown up meeting Giorno. Current timeline Giorno. Because he senses Dio's charisma. Be cool if a part 3 villain comes back to meet Giorno. Oh, no, part 3. Death 13. Oh, the baby? Oh. So that theme park, that's also something I thought of, like JoJo Lands, like literally a theme park. It could be an AU theme park, an alternate dimensional theme park. That's interesting. The question is, like, another thing that's kind of a joke and people are making reference of is World Over Heaven Dio from the video games. And, like, could we get to that level of interdimensionality? Because Funny Valentine technically does, like, break the rules. So, technically we did, you're right. But the back in time was backstory, not current plot. But what I'm like trying to say in this part is, like, imagine if we actually got the story of Jesus himself as the first stand user. And then Satan and the devil, like the devil's, like we could have get the whole story on that shit. I mean, this could be like the Pillar Men redone to the nth degree in Cars. Literally, like what Cars was back in ancient times. Oh, there's so much that could happen here. Now, I guess let's... okay, AU Cars, AU Pillar Men, for real. Like seriously, there could be like maybe that's why rock people were shown in this part because he's setting up the Pillar Men. I thought about that too, and I'm like, this is like the Pillar Men, like men of the ancient Earth. Like, oh shit, you know? Are we getting like a Hamon variant in this next part? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe the part will be cars in space. He's floating, like the whole part's just him floating through space. There we go. That's a good. There we go. Maybe he gets revived in a star or something. Oh shit. Yeah, and well, I personally have Cowboy Bebop on Netflix and Stone Ocean Anime, and I watched this show called The Blacklist on NBC. Which, oh my god, The Blacklist is fucking amazing. It's fun as hell. And also, what was another thing I had? There's something I'm forgetting. Oh, the Book of Boba Fett. The Book of fucking Boba Fett. Let's go. Which looks like, funny enough, a mobster story, like part 5. But he's already the Godfather. That's fucking cool to me. The Godfather. I always love the Godfather. And then, well, you know, the three of us can hope for Togashi-san in the next 40 years coming back. I'm still sad about that. My buddy and I are so sad about not doing this stuff. We really do miss reacting to this shit. It is a part of our life that we miss. And we would do it if it came back. Like we would be willing to do it. And it needs to fucking happen. And it's been tough, man. Like I love a lot of other series, but there's something about that one. The fact that we're doing it live, we're there when it happens, and the amount of theory crafting and discussion was the best. Very few series make me ask as many questions. That's why I fucking love it. As long as Jump keeps printing those break notices. Maybe part 9 is going to be about Togashi. My stand is called hiatus, and it prevents you from doing anything productive. Oh, my back. Oh, shit. Oh, no. His stand could be called Backbreaker. He's literally carrying a franchise on his back. Togashi's stand. Oh, my God. Could someone like illustrate that shit? Oh, my gosh. Backbreaker. Oh, fucking shit. But I would be up to doing these streams on occasion. Maybe, certain weeknights or weekends. Like, again, my schedule is about to become much crazier. I also haven't really had motivation to do discussion videos like this in a while, but there are a lot of series coming out, and so like Nana from 2009. Oh fuck, man. I'll put it like this. A part of me says, like, I'm going to give this series another 2 years. And if it's not back, I've given up hope. Completely. Like, my hope is already low, but if Hunter x Hunter doesn't come back in 2 years to that, like, 5-year mark, I'm probably going to try and just move it out of my mind And if it ever comes back, that's great. But like, I have to just like give up at some point. I've really tried to hang on. It's just like, and especially if we don't get any sort of animated content for it or any other supplementary content, like if Togashi wants to start making movies on it, fine, go for it. Start making movies. Start doing like specials. Toriyama does it, so it's like, yeah, whatever. So hang on, just give me a minute, guys. Sorry for that, guys. I had someone visiting, so I had to just talk to them for a little. Let me see what I missed here. Feel about the same. We'll never. Yeah, Family Guy. Oh man, like Saradnik. Oh man, dude! Like he literally went JoJo in this. It's just brilliant because it's JoJo in a Hunger Games scenario. It's almost like he did his own JoJo's part, and then it's Togashi. So like all of the fucking characters have their own motivations. It's like yes, that's what would happen in this scenario. All of the characters have something to gain and something to lose. That's the point. Like that matters. And he really gets that down in this part. The Succession War is brilliant. When, like, look at what Camilla did as a prime example of how you don't neglect what would be considered a side character. Like, Saradnik's the main villain, but, I mean, all of the princes, minus some of the, like, Saleh. Even Saleh had an impact on the world that he was occupying, right? And he was basically a vehicle for Predator to be showcased. But the point is, as a character, he was influencing people just by his presence alone. And that's like the weakest example of his character. You know, there are still some princes like, I gotta go back into my memory banks here. I'm the seventh prince, the druggie. Bro, I'm blanking. It's been that long. But the druggie prince, like, even he has ties to the mob, so you know it's fucking legitimate. You know that there's severe motivation. Loserist, thank you. Which is also interesting that he's like, well, I think of like Lucifer with Crow Lucifer, but loserist. There's something, or he's a loser. I don't know. But no, he's what I'm trying to get at is like, you still want to see these characters because of how Togashi builds up their plot development, like what they're doing. There's always a reason why they are there, not just because they fill pages, and not just because they look cool, which is what I felt about Toru. Unfortunately, he was just there to fill pages, and he wasn't really like, I didn't really give a shit about his conquest and getting the fruit. I didn't care. But look what Camilla fucking did. A character who intentionally was kept in the background, but all the research she did in preparation for this war, it was also a way to showcase Kakin's backstory all in one go. Oh, yes. Yeah. Yes. That's a great connection. Yes. Mm-hmm. I mean, like, look at well, that's no. Actually, that's a cool game. Well, besides, of course, King Crimson, are there other like JoJo references that you can really get from this arc? I mean, I mean, could you say, for example, like Silent Majority kind of looks like a stand a little bit, doesn't it? Like it kind of has that appearance to it. It's a little bit mechanical. It's a little bit like metallic. I kind of liked that idea of it. Um, I do want to find more about that power though. Holy shit! Like I had a theory that one of the judges in the judicial branch was using it, or somebody with a conspiracy against the succession war was using it, or it could be. I know the conspiracy is it's. I think there's like one of those staff members or temporary hunters that actually knows Nan, and they're trying to figure out who that is. And then like they're trying to take out the hunt. They're trying to take out hunters protecting the. They're trying to get to a winner basically and narrow the herd, but you know I want more with that. That power and the concept is pretty fucking cool. And then also, what is Woble's Nen Beast? And I still to this day think that is going to be the power that helps Karapika win the war. Woble's Nen Beast. The Woble's power. What the hell is it going to be? Oh my gosh, can you imagine how powerful Woble's Beast will be in the hands of a trained Nen user like Karapika with Steel Chain? Because I still think Steel Chain could use a Nen Beast ability, if not the Nen Beast itself. And so that to me would be just amazing. And then like the mob war that's going to happen, we're almost there. And like maybe Togashi's having a really hard time figuring out how to decide the outcomes and like the fights of that arc, because there are a lot of people involved with the mob war. Morena alone has all of these members that you have to worry about, and it's like, well, fuck, what do we do, and how do we depict the fights, and how do we do this? The violence is going to only go up, and I feel like the action can only go up from here. But he stopped right before really going there, and that's what fucking sucks. Oh, yes. Thank you. Yes. Yes. Yep. Absolutely. And that chapter was freaking great, man. Seeing Nasubi's quarters and the whole, like, the mind games, like, you can only die to this succession war. Like, are you kidding me? Like, you'll have to die fair and square, Halki. You can't just kill yourself. Like, this is your destiny. This is your fate. Stop trying to fuck with it. You should have used 3 bullets. Is Nasubi going to get involved at some point? And what is in that coffin? Now, I have a couple of theories. I've had them for a while, but the original King of Kakin could be in there, and this could all be something that revives him, or it could be the previous king. Because the other reason why I'm so hyped about Camilla's chapter, the whole thing about that, is the burial tradition could literally be what's on the boat right now. They are connecting bodies to this main coffin, but maybe the winner is the being that will resurrect this, like, or fuse with this guardian, right? Or this body in the middle. And then they have this whole thing like you're being buried with royalty. What, like, I know the idea is that you're crowning a new king, but who's to say that literally just means the king is there to be used? Because again, with Togashi, there's always a twist. So even if you become king in this game, your ultimate fate could still be to just be a tool. Why not? Why not? Why? Maybe Nasubi had this grand plan. Maybe Beyond Netero has some involvement here as well. Maybe they have a weapon in there. Yo, Nasubi's Nenbeast could literally have some fucking hacks because he's the king. Maybe he can actually summon his Nenbeast out of the war. We don't know okay, it could be. We just don't know. We don't have enough info. But again, the coffins could also, remember, here's the other thing, right? Yes, you would think that you need the body. But there's this soul connection to these games. And I feel like the games will know if you're no longer a part of it. So maybe the coffin is filled with your essence or your soul token or whatever is. You see what I'm saying? But that also leads to a great possible plot point where Fugetsu is one of the last survivors or the last one besides Wobble and Tsuridnik. It could be Wobble and Fugetsu versus Tsuridnik. And Halkenberg is trying to keep the peace. This would be very interesting, right? I think Ben and Camilla will ultimately go, but not before they fucking do some crazy shit. And maybe even reveal to Karapika some of the secrets of the Kakian Empire, right? Before he goes against Tsuridnik, because he's going to need to learn some shit about this guy, really learn about his power at the very least. Benjamin might be able to tell Karapika about Tsuridnik's abilities because he's able to spare those lives and learn about him. And he has the secret window predator combo, which I'm waiting for that. Oh, I want to see that fucking. I want Benjamin to be spying on everybody. Oh. It is very dark for him. But trying to think. He killed children in NGL. I mean, pretty bad. And a baby actually has less agency as a character, right? As long as you don't show it. I don't know. Maybe not kill, but no, Wobble, no, here's the thing. I would be very intrigued if it really just is Karapika versus Tsuridnik and everyone's died. Now, the reason I say that is because, as you just pointed, Fugetsu and Kacho is a Nenbeast, for God's sake. So why, if you had Kacho as a Nenbeast, that is a plot device right there to do something, to prevent the outcome, or you know what I'm saying? And to be a trick. Or maybe it brings Fugetsu back from the dead. Maybe she is killed, but the Nenbeast protects her. And if it really just is Karapika versus Tsuridnik, all the that whole setup is gone. Camilla and Ben are probably dying, but they're going to do something important. I just don't see that not happening. Giving Karapika what he needs, intel or powers, whatever it might be, and helping him win. I just don't see any other. What a waste it would be. And Togashi, the one thing he's pretty damn consistent on, especially with an arc like this, and I see it, he's not going to waste his characters. Sale, again, you could argue was the biggest wasted potential, but even he had a purpose in this story. So I just don't know. Yeah, bro. look, storyboards are one thing, but writing and final drafts and actually drawing it are another. The pandemic just stopped it, man. Like he clearly doesn't want to work on this during the pandemic. And but he's like the only one. Like everybody else has figured out a way to just keep working, and he just doesn't want to do it. And then when Miura unfortunately passed away, like rest his soul, like he's the same age as Togashi, and I have no doubt that that really hurt him and made him think about things, and that really is scary. Oh man. Here's the lesson I've learned. Like you can be super passionate about what you do, but you can't let it control your life because that's unhealthy. Finding passion is fantastic, but we're human. You know, we have a lot to deal with, a lot to take care of, and the mind is a fragile thing, and the body is a fragile thing. Even if you love what you do, if you work to death, you will die. It's pretty much a correlation. And unfortunately, Miura not only worked too hard in his condition, but I don't think he had the health or body to handle it. Well, you know, he's in his 50s, so like, you know, having kids in your early 40s, late 30s isn't unheard of. That's especially for the guy. I mean, for the girl, it's you know, a little bit of a different consideration, right? But for the guy, you know, people get married when they're in their 70s. But yeah, I mean, that's not. Yeah. And I don't know all of Togashi's backstory, but you know, like I don't know if he has like divorced or anything like that, or I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know how it works in Japan either for that stuff. I'll be the first to admit that. Because divorce is actually different, and marriage and divorce, like in other countries. I know Japan's pretty fucking modern, but there are still some cultural things about, you know, their society that are vastly different. Yeah, but I'm wondering, like before Takuchi, has Takuchi been his only significant partner in life? I guess. Maybe we'll never know. Excuse me. Wow, it's been 2.5 hours. Damn. I will have to end this in the half hour. So, but we still. I'll go to the big three. All right. This is a lot of fun. Yeah, you know, we don't ever want someone to lose their health, or you know, even worse, like what happened with Mira. And we wish them well. Like I can be as mad and annoyed and pissed that the series is gone, but if the guy is doing well, then that's all I can ask for ultimately. And stories come and go, and there are other series out there. And like I gotta say, there's a lot of television and stuff, series coming out that I mean, Cowboy Bebop, just to start, I'm very curious to see how they're going to do it on Netflix. I'm very curious to see the adaptation. It might not be as good as the anime, but I'm curious to see how they do it. I'm all for giving it a shot. If it's a genuine shot to do it live action, I'm all for that, because why not? You might get a perspective from a live action that is different. It might make you see the characters a little bit differently. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just a difference. We have to see how they do with it. Like, for example, the grittiness of the ship. You see the dirt on it. You really feel like it's a piece of shit. Jet's trying to fix the shutter. But this is stuff that's like in physical is a lot better. The sets can feel like Space Tijuana is going to feel like you're in Mexico. Space Tijuana, which we clearly see as a big part of the earlier episodes because that's where the blood eye, red eye, or the fuck it is, the drugs in the anime are from. And we also see Spike and Faith fighting there. So they must meet her there or on. It's one of the early missions that they all go on. So that'll be interesting. Wait. What? When was that announced? And that one's a little interesting because that's a lot less grounded. That's crazy shit. Wait a minute. I didn't hear about that. I wonder if my bro, if Abeck knows about that shit. Yu Yu was good in the day, man. The only problem with Yu Yu is that Dragon Ball was like also on, and children, like a lot of people from my generation, we probably knew Dragon Ball better than Yu Yu, although Yu Yu was a big inspiration in the day for other series. Like that was the only problem. Oh, very cool. Toguro, man. My eyes almost blew my eyes out of my head when I saw Toguro go 50% for the first time, let alone 80%. What the fuck is this guy? Fucking loves Toguro, man. And then the nuclear spirit gun. Come on. Yo, one finger training. Let's go. But it's like that series almost killed Togashi. Like he almost retired completely after doing that series. That's how rough that industry is. Like I could never fucking do it. I could never. First of all, I can't draw for shit, but I could never do it that much, nonstop. Like wow, it's a lot of fucking work. That's why the animation studios. It's still fucking like almost slave labor. But at least they have teams of people doing it. Whereas, you're drawing the book, like that's it. That's tough. And you have no source. You are the material. You are coming up with it. It's like when you're writing. Like if I write stuff ever, and I do work on occasional fiction from time to time, and I have a couple of fictional pieces that I've kind of developed, but not nearly done, but I have ideas. And every time I write, it's like you're staring at a vast ocean. You're like, oh my God, I got to keep this going. And then like, even then I can only do it for like 2 to 3 hours tops. Like my brain doing it 12 to 20. That's a lot. Yeah. Yeah, Hunter, the hunt for my own schedule. Yes. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Hatsu is vacation mode. But Yu Yu had to do really well, and it did, which is why he got those bragging rights in a lot of ways, because he got a reputation for that series. So he put in the sweat and tears and did it. I mean, yeah, it's easy to like compare him to Oda or even Kishimoto for their work ethic, but like even Kubo was like he aged 20 years. But like that's the rare outcome. Like so few people actually make series that long. It is you are choosing that to be your life. And that is Togashi is a very creative guy, so I could see his mind wanting to do other things. Like that's the thing. I feel like it's a focusing problem with him as well as the stress, because he is somebody who has such an explorative and active mind. He needs that time to think about it. He can't just pump it out like a machine. I feel like And I'm actually kind of like that too. Like I like to think about stuff and ponder it, but just pumping it out is very tiring. Very, very tiring. I'm going to be here for. I think I'm going to do a 10-minute mark. So I'm just letting you know that, Family Guy. Yeah, that's what's meant with the kid comment. Imagine takes them to school and is just holed up in his studio. Imagine that, huh? Imagine. But yeah, man. Are there any? I guess I'll kind of get to a conclusion here. Are there any series that you are interested in? It could be anything, like live American, Eastern, whatever. Anything you're excited about beyond you Hakusho? Do you like the Cowboy Bebop at all? Have you heard of it being released on Netflix? I'm going to be honest with you. I actually haven't. It's a cordial sin. I plan one day to do it, but like I was thinking about it, and then Miura died, like right as I was considering it. So I'm thinking about how to do this, and I hear they're like trying to finish it up, but yeah, I haven't gotten to that. Like I don't read a lot of manga, man. I really don't. Hunter x Hunter's about it, and JoJo. All right. Well, did you finished the Bebop anime? I hear that, and I know it's gritty as fuck. I know it's really, really fucking dark and gritty. Yeah. No, I one day I'll get to it, and you know what my problem is? I'm not the biggest medieval guy. I never have been. Um, the only medieval shit I like is Lord of the Rings. That's it. But like, I didn't even like Game of Thrones. I tried. I watched 3 seasons and I just couldn't get into it. There's something about it. Hmm. It's one of my all time favorites. But I'm also a musician, so you can imagine why I love it so much. The thematic use of music to portray the story and set the mood is exactly what blues music does, and that's why I fucking love bebop, because the whole show is aided in the choice of music and the art style. Now, the live action isn't going to have that art style, and already I can tell this a little bit, especially with Spike. First of all, the actor was about 20 years older than the original character's depicted age. And then on top of that, Spike has a very dry sarcasm. And thus far, very little of that has been shown in the trailers for the live action. I feel like there's a good like monotone seriousness when he's talking about serious shit. Like when he's talking to Anna, he's like, "They're trying to kill me, Anna." Like Spike would talk in that monotone way to Anna when he did in the series. Like the Syndicate's chasing me. Like, do you want to find me? Like I'm Spike Spiegel. Like that, and that works. But we'll see if they add more of that like sarcastic, spunky side of Spike, and I hope they do. They kind of teased it with saying, "Can I shoot Faye just a little? I just want to kill her a little." You know, they always had that tension on board, and it'll be fun to see how they do it. It looks like they're really trying though, which is great. Bebop, like also comparing Bebop to a longer series, like each episode has more weight to it. And then ultimately the story of Bebop is about choosing to let your past dictate your future. Do you really do that? Is your meaning in life all about where you came from? Or can you make a new life for yourself? And that's the story, but the characters are so stuck in their past, they ultimately end up kind of alone. And that's like, it's not a happy story, it's a sad story, because bebop music comes from an era, and blues music was about sorrow and heartbreak, not about happy-go-lucky joy. That was, people are drinking their sorrows away at these music clubs. That's what the theme of bebop comes from. It's not happy. Just trying to make a quick buck doing dirty work. Dirty deeds are done dirt cheap. It is November. Yeah. Is it November 5th? Is it? Wait a minute. Wait. Is that coming out? There's so many series on November 19th. Right? Yeah. Oh boy. So. And then Stone Ocean 2, December. Oh, ABEC is gonna flip out because we're gonna watch it together, and he hasn't caught up. He doesn't know anything about Part 6. I've told him little things about like how this is in a prison and how Jolene can use string and then Jotaro he knows Jotaro's in it, but like, what do you think that means? And then he was already getting at like probably something to do with Dio, and I'm like, I'm trying not to say to him, but I haven't told him how much Dio matters to Poochie, but like and the fact I haven't told him about Poochie at all. Like I told him like the ending is ridiculous. It's massive. It's huge. A lot happens. It's like call the Avengers, and he's like, oh my God, I can't wait for this part. And it's going to be so much fun watching it with him being fresh, not knowing what happens. Oh, but he's already getting so hyped. Oh, dude, if I see the fucking sun flipping through the sky, like, oh, it's going to be freaking amazing. Sea Moon, they're going to have to twist oh, man, Sea Moon's going to be nuts. Dude, Jolene on fire. Oh, come on. Come on, let's go. Jumping Jack Flash. Weather report. Oh, man. I'm telling you, this part could be the most helped by the animation of all the parts. Because I saw the intent behind what Araki was getting at, but movement, animation, voice acting, I can only see it doing better. Oh, man. Ready for some snails? Are you ready to become a snail? Dude, Weather Report, that fucking group is amazing. Birdland, which I've played before on percussion. Birdland's fucking awesome. I love that he's themed around that shit. Oh my gosh. I'm getting excited just talking about it. I believe they're doing like batch releases. So it's up to you how often you want to watch it. I hope. Like Ghost in the Shell 2045 did this, where they've only released part 1, but they did it all at once. So you could choose to complete it or savor it. I mean, at this rate, I'm considering like maybe with my buddy, maybe 2 episodes a session. But I think it's confirmed that it's going to be batched up. And I'm wondering where they cut it. Like when Jotaro loses his memories, like right when, I would say like when Jolene really meets Poochie for the first time, that could be a cutoff point. And then part 2, like we really get into the Poochie shit a lot more. And then I wonder the duration of the releases. Unfortunately, like Ghost in the Shell is taking more than a year to fucking get to part 2. It's pissing me off. Like there were some problems with that, but it was the first season, so I was trying to see where part 2 would take it. And I like some of the concepts, even though the animation's kind of trash in some ways. But the CGI, like it doesn't get the facial emotion. But some of the writing was pretty good near the end. I was really into the themes, and then it's like, where's part 2? It's been a while. Yo, can you imagine if they like stopped one of the episode batches, like when the frogs rain down? How confused people would be. Like, why the fuck is it raining frogs? And then they just cut it. Like, wait a minute. Wait, that doesn't make sense. Abeck is going to be scratching his head. What the hell is this about? Why raining frogs? Yeah. My dude can literally pick things up into a cloud and rain them down. It's based on an actual phenomenon that happened, which is crazy, but Weather Report's busted as shit. Oh. I also love the fact that, like, compare Toru's death to Poochie's death. Poochie technically died to his own ability, kind of, because he accelerated his oxygen poisoning. I mean, it's kind of cool. Like, you know, of all the ways to die, he dies by breathing too much. Pretty much. He dies by breathing too much. Yes. But, you know, once he obtained heaven, he was absolutely soulless. He was pointless. And he let his, yes, please. Dude, imagine if Jobin and the mother had been the villains. She got out of prison. I was actually really hyped when I saw Green Dolphin in part 9. I was like, oh my God, what is this? I thought it was Jolene from the back. I thought it was an alternate Jolene at the time. And then I learned it wasn't, but I was getting very excited. And then fucking Toru. And the head doctor bullshit. What the fuck? And then Tsurugi, if Jobin, like if Tsurugi had a special power that was only unlocked with the fruit or something, it would have like. And then Jobin was trying to confirm that as the future of the family. I would have bought that more. I would have bought that more. The Rock Humans could have led into part 9 without being the main focus of part 8. And as I was saying earlier, that whole theme could have been introduced, but not resolved in part 8. It could have waited. So, bro, I actually do have to head out. But it has been a lot of fun talking. And this is going to be a good one for the channel. I'm glad you got this up and, you know, catching up on some cool JoJo's and other, you know, series, and a lot of fun talking about it. I will say that as some of these new series come out, I might try to do live streams here and there, maybe on weekends, more so than not. So yeah, the channel, check it out time to time, and you know, I'll try to have these live streams going. But at the very least, they'll be on the channel, so you can watch the videos after, leave comments, and that's the goal. I mean, to be quite candid, like there hasn't been much I've wanted to make a video on in a long time. Like I'm kind of just drained, man. Like streaming is fine because I can just put on the camera and start talking, which is great. I like discussion. Discussion's my favorite thing. I like seeing what other people think about stuff. I'm not here to just spew jargon all day long. So, yeah. Yeah, so good luck on JoJo Lands. We'll see what happens with that. But man, thanks for stopping by, and everyone else who was watching. Thank you, and I'll see you guys around on the next stream. Be well.